Hello YouTube, this is Matt McNeil with So Red, and to begin this video I'm going to show a slideshow detailing how I use the Gritty Mix and explaining what the Gritty Mix is. At the end I will have a video of me in person with some containers showing the Gritty Mix. So let me get this slideshow started and I can begin to explain what exactly I'm doing in this video. Alright, the first slide is just going to show the components of what the Gritty Mix is. On the top you'll see the granite grit. To the bottom left you'll see the pine bark fines. In the center you'll see, what is that? That's trace minerals, azomite. That's not it's not required in the gritty mix according to the traditional views of Al and the garden web community, but I'll add it anyways. And on the bottom right is Napa floor dry. Alright, I have already begun an experiment. I suppose I am growing 2 banana plants. I bought the one on the left from Home Depot. It was a bit shorter, and this is the parent plant. On the right is a pup I grew from this parent plant. I'm using a modified gritty mix in this as I didn't have granite grit at the time, so the next photo will show the substance being used. In it you can see that there's floor dry, Napa floor dry, perlite in the place of granite, and pine bark fines. I've found that this mix works extremely well. I do fertilize, and these plants seem to be very healthy. At the start they didn't look so great, I'll admit that, but they really doubled up and I couldn't be happier. They're very attractive plants. So, the first product you should probably locate is soil conditioner, which is what the pine bark fines come from. You may be able to buy pine bark fines by themselves, but I've never found such a thing, so I've turned to soil conditioner as being the answer. I bought this bag. I don't know if they sell it nationwide, but I found it at Walmart. The bag was very cheap for the amount of material. I believe it was 1.5 cubic feet for only $3.80. The product itself looks pretty good. The garden web community is always very attentive to how much sapwood you have in your product. And sapwood, I'll go to the next slide. You can probably see it in this slide. It's the thin slivers of yellowish wood that looks like it might come from particle board or like a pallet. This wood is supposed to sap the nitrogen out of your material. Undoubtedly, I have some of that in the banana mix. I got that bag, the mix, the pine bark fines. Those came from a Lowe's soil conditioner. I would say it's of equal quality or of lesser quality than the kind I'm using right here. But you'll see that these are the approximate particle sizes you want for your pine barks. It'll provide aeration, nitrogen, and drainage to your mix. I yielded 5 gallons from a single bag, so for the price that's actually quite good. As an added bonus you'll get pine bark fines dust. This is basically compost. It's not a finished compost by any means, but you can use this in your raised beds or a traditional potting soil mix of this, perlite, and peat moss. That would actually make a pretty good mix. I yielded 8 gallons of this stuff and I applied it to my raised beds. I don't know how great a quality it is, but it seems like a good organic component that would be great in basically anybody's beds. On to the next product, Napa Floor Dry. This is a 25-pound bag of Napa Floor Dry. This provides the water, it will water retention. It could also retain nutrients, I'm led to believe. This bag only costs $8.50 for 25 pounds. This is quite good. The only problem you may find is if you want to grow a lot at a single time, your Napa center, if you only have one, may only have like 3 bags in stock and you may have to wait a week or only a day to get more. However, I found this product to probably be my favorite component of the whole gritty mix. I'm looking to add more of this stuff to my raised beds because it's relatively cheap and the benefits it offers seem to be quite great. Now I should say this is made of diatomaceous earth. The type of stuff you apply to your plants to keep away hard-bodied insects. The stuff itself, I haven't seen it cause any damage to insects. I would say it's completely safe if you don't want to kill insects to apply it to your garden. I have no idea. You may be able to break it up and then use the dust as an insect killer. I'm not quite sure. I would say if you're looking to kill insects, don't use this. Just use it for its soil structure purposes. Here are what the particles look like. It's quite nice. It looks like kitty litter, I suppose. But when it gets wet, I think it looks kind of attractive. This is the granite grit. I am using chicken grits as that's the only way I could find this stuff. Compared to other things in the garden, this stuff is actually quite heavy. You're using it in the gritty mix for soil drainage. It really poses no... It may retain some water, I'm not 100% on that, but it really doesn't pose any other things. Now, what I presuppose in this experiment is that living in a desert environment, water drainage is not of extreme importance. I could be speaking of pure ignorance, but more often than not, I need the water on a continuous basis because it's so dry here and there's so low of humidity. The ground itself is always dry and it can always wick up more water. That is why I think the drainage is not so important in this and water retention is. That's the whole purpose of this experiment. It's there to phase out the granite grit and see if I can do better without it. So once again, the components of the gritty mix from top going clockwise: granite grit, Napa floor dry, pine bark fines, and in the center, azomites, trace minerals. For the experiment, I will be growing burpee sweet basil. This seed pack is listed at $1.79, but I got it for 29 cents at my local Walgreens as they had a summer sale. Go ahead and go check out your Walgreens. Buy a packet and see if they ring up for 29 cents. You can't go wrong at this time of year. This video is being recorded in July 31st in front of a live studio audience. Anyways, going on. Well, that's it. So stay tuned for the video now as I explain what I'm going to be doing in more detail. Thank you, and keep watching.
Hello YouTube, this is Matt McNeil with So Red, and today I have a beginning of an experiment to do. We are going to test out the gritty mix. Now, I've already played a slideshow with my voice overlaying the basics of this experiment, but I'll just show you what we're working with in a video format so there's no misunderstandings or failed test results. So I have two containers right here. Now you'll note that not all the containers are the same size or shape. I will be using, let's see, 4 different mediums to grow in. It's not an exact science with the mediums themselves. It was just an eyeball estimate. So anyways, right here and right here, I'm using both a traditional soil-based potting mix. In it, I have compost, perlite, and peat moss. Here's Lola. I don't know if she's on camera or not. Anyways, these two will be the traditional test. I'm using this kind of soil mix for all my containers so far, other than 2 banana plants. We'll see if basil grows very well in these or not. I think we'll get good results. The compost seems fine. Other things take off in it. Beans do. So zucchini. I think everything will be good in these. It'll be a good control at least. Next up, we have the gritty mix styles. Let's see what this one is. Okay, this one I'll talk about second actually. This one, it's far heavier, I should have known. This one is the traditional gritty mix. In it, I have Napa floor dry for the water retentive purposes. I have the granite grit, which provides the water drainage and aeration, and pine bark fines. These provide aeration and they also provide a low amount of nitrogen to the mix. This is the one Al Topla specifically recommends. However, he does recommend this mix more for perennial crops that can grow for many years. So, I think it'll do alright. My only problems with this mix is granite grit is very hard to locate, source, and it's somewhat pricey given the other materials. Now there may be a way to get granite grit for free. If you know how, please post in the comments. I'll continue to search online for how to do that. If I was able to do so, it would be a much more attractive offering. But as it stands now, granite grit is actually the most expensive part of this. I'm forced to buy chicken grit, which is supposed to be pure granite grit, and at the way it is now, it's just more expensive than the Napa Floor Dry and the pine bark fines by far. So here's my solution to that. This is the modified gritty mix. In it, I just have pine bark fines and Napa Floor Dry. So I'll have all the water retentive purposes and none of the other benefits that the Napa offers, but I'll also get low amounts of nitrogen. So onto the test itself. There's going to be one more constant. I'll be using paper mulch for all of these containers. I think it's the best kind of mulch to use in this situation, so I will use it. So onto the test itself, things that may come up. Fertilization. I will fertilize with a worm casting tea that does have a heavy nitrogen component to it that I add. It's all organic. I'll fertilize at least 2 or 3 times during the growing season. It is July 31st today. Maybe it's August 1st. One of those days. Anyways, they will be growing until the first frost, I believe, for basil. I've never grown basil for a full season or from seed before. I only have transplants in my garden for Bonnie. So it will be growing until, let's just say Halloween or November, like November 14th maybe, somewhere around then. That's when the first frost will occur. So that gives us almost over 3 months of time to grow a basil plant. So 3 fertilizations, possibly more, 3 to, let's just say 6. So that's a big range. If I fertilize one, I'll always fertilize the other. The biggest problem that could come up is this mix right here could be lacking in nitrogen, or this mix too. If that does come up, I will do an extra quick fertilization, and I may leave these out. I will post that in the comments, or I'll make note of it in further videos. Watering, it'll be watered on the same schedule for both of them. Honestly, I'm not sure what else would come up. They'll be grown in the same location, they'll get the same amount of light. The pots are slightly different, but I don't think that's a big deal. So I think we're going to be fine here. I look forward to the experiment results. I am growing 2 banana plants in the gritty mix. It's another modified mix. I'm not using granite, I'm using perlite instead. And the bananas, they look great. I have one almost fully grown banana plant I bought from Home Depot, and I have a pup I managed to grow, and it's been growing up very healthily, and I like it a lot. I would say it's doing better than its parent plant. So this pot right here is the final pot I'll talk about. I had extra granite grit, so I decided, hey, let's try some more of the traditional granite grit mix. So instead of growing basil, I'm growing a golden zucchini plant. I already have many of those already planted into a regular potting mix. So this will just be something extra on the side. I will keep you all updated. These are in potting containers, so if I do move, I'll take these with me, and there'll be no hiccups or problems. I think the results are going to be great. I look forward to getting some extra basil, some extra zucchini. I think the plants are going to do fine. And if this works out well, I can always reuse this mix more or less the same as it is now for the next growing season and maybe the one after that. All I have to do is fertilize with this mix. I don't have to continuously add compost if I don't want to, although I could. So, if this turns out well, if the let's just say the Napa-based ones, the gritty ones, if they do well, I will be adding more Napa Floor Dry to my raised beds, as I think that could provide tons of water retentive properties to these beds, which is vastly needed in a desert environment. So, stay tuned, subscribe if you want to see the final results and updates. I may do a mid-season update, and I'll do a final update, of course, in October of the results. Maybe I'll post in comments how it's doing. Garden updates, you'll see that too. So hey, there's a lot of time to watch and see how it's doing. I'm not going to keep this shaded. I won't cut a final video and say, well, it worked, and leave it at that. I'll show you the results, and you guys will be fine. Anyways, this is Matt McNeil with So Red, and I'm going to sign off now.